Hello, fellow parents and educators. Thank you for joining me at Education Evolution, where we are disrupting the status quo in today's learning models. We talk about present-day education, what's broken, who's fixing it, and how. I'm Dr. Maureen O'Shaughnessy, your host and founder of Education Evolution and the Microschool Coalition, where we are fiercely committed to changing the narrative, to reimagining the education landscape and creating learning that serves all children and prepares them to thrive. Hello, Education Evolution listeners. Today I am with Nana Campana, and it is so great to have her here. Nana, welcome.
Hi, Maureen. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Nana took my Microschool 101 workshop and then enrolled in my Build Your Microschool class, and she is on a mission. I can't wait for her to share with you how she's taken her mission of inclusive learning and is pivoting to opening a microschool, one that will serve learners long beyond the end of the pandemic. Nana, let's start with, how about you describe your opening next week microschool?
Well, Untethered Minds is, how would I say this? I think it's like a little dream that I didn't realize I even had until I came across the microschool course that you provided. I've always had this, I've been an educator for over 18 years, and I've always had this passion of reforming education and wanting things to look different. And I've done a lot of that as an educational therapist in the afternoons, but I always wondered what it would be like to actually have a place where children can come and would be constantly challenged to reach their full potential and for their cognition to really be tapped into and their weaknesses be worked on so that they can become strong. And so that's how Untethered Minds is being born now. And so the focus is exactly that, just creating an environment where academics are there, because obviously academics are important, but more importantly is teaching the children how to learn well, so that no matter what content is presented before them, they would be able to tackle it with confidence and self-efficacy.
Love it. So if I walked into Untethered Minds, what would I see?
So it's a combination of things. I did require that the parents enroll the children in an accredited online academic program. I do live in Miami, Florida, which means that for the longest time we were the epicenter of this pandemic. So I wanted to make sure that the academic portion of the, for every student would be consistent, that there would be no interruption. So if I needed to close down, there would be no interruption. So you basically would walk into either a child doing a live lesson, because that's the first thing we put into the children's schedule, a live lesson from their academic institution, or they would be doing independent work or doing one-on-one educational therapy or group therapy or doing sound therapy or playing. We have experiential learning happening through a program called Tree that we've developed alongside Nature Postings. There's dance therapy through Spectrum. We have chess and ceramics and all sorts of different enrichments, because ultimately the goal is that the children would really not just to educate the academics, right, and the brain, but the whole child would be treated. Therefore, creativity plays a huge part. We also have a drama class and a speech class that the kids participate in. So depending on what time of the day you come in, all children will be doing different things because they all have their individual learning plan and their individual therapy plan. And so you would walk around. We do actually have a tree house with a slide, and we use that a lot for.
Oh my gosh.
So you might see some kids playing there. You might see some kids interacting with coding. You might see some kids just sitting and working on independent work. It depends on who you're looking at the time.
Oh, how magical. So many ways to create and express. And sadly, our schools oftentimes lose that or lose funding for those really important holistic pieces. I want to go to your school. It sounds so wonderful.
It is definitely fun. And creating it has been an interesting challenge, but the program that you put together helped me really define what were the elements that were needed. and what to prioritize. And so it's been a really great experience. And the parents at the beginning had some hesitation. I think everybody with the pandemic and trying to do something that looks different, they had some hesitation, but now they're extra excited. We officially start on Tuesday, and some parents are excited when they see their children's schedules, excited about the potential of what will be happening. They've experienced it in the afternoons, but in periods of 1 hour to an hour and a half. And we had a lot of really great miracles, I call them, over the summer, doing a summer intensive. So a lot of these parents are really excited to see how their children will evolve with this approach.
Oh, wonderful. So they got a taste of how amazing it could be in the summer, and they're coming back for more, it sounds like.
Yes. So in the summer, the summer intensives were 4 weeks long, Monday through Friday, only periods of 2 hours. And we had students that when we started, they literally, there's one particular child that comes to mind. He's supposed to be entering second grade now. And when we started working with him in the summer intensive, he only knew or recognized one letter. By 2.5 weeks, he literally was reading, which is extremely exciting. The systems that we use are definitely effective. And for him, it was very, very powerful. The mom says that when he showers, he's like spelling out letters and, singing out letters and spelling out words and sounding them out, which is adorable.
I love it. And we know that not every brain learns the same way, and that you have special training that really ties into cognition. So those kinds of successes must just have parents and kids thrilled with your program.
Yes. And that's, I definitely love working with children that others have said that they're never going to be able to learn, or that they're always going to struggle. You at the beginning, you said that I have a mission, and my biggest mission has become to make it known that learning disabilities don't have to be permanent, that anybody can learn to learn better. There is this huge population of like gifted children that many times are called lazy because they have a double exceptionality. And those are the kids that really tend to thrive in the environment, that I'm trying to create with Untethered Minds. So I'm excited because the dyslexic, I have students that are, they have dysgraphia, dyscalculia, ADHD, and, with the sound therapies, there's one child that comes to mind. We did sound therapy this summer for a 14-day protocol, and his ADHD significantly improved, so much so that the mom is considering to take him off medication. So it's really, really great to have the freedom within my own environment to impact children's lives in a way that makes sense to that particular child and that particular, their cognitive abilities surrounded around that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And large schools can't stay current on all of this research. And I know in education, we don't get the same training that you get as an educational specialist. And we also don't have the time because it's like, okay, I get this kid for 50 minutes, or I get this kid and now they have to go do this or that. So you're where schools need to be. We need to give teachers time and resources so that more kids can learn the way they need to learn instead of failing in a one-size-fits-all model that obviously doesn't fit all. So thank you, Nana. That is so cool. I'm wondering, what's your biggest challenge been with opening a micro school?
Well, I think the biggest challenge has been mindset. For myself, just really wrapping my mind around the fact, there's value in what I offer, and that I need to be comfortable with the fact that my program doesn't necessarily fit everybody. That was a little tricky at the beginning. Also organizing and finding all the systems to ensure that I have ways to communicate with parents effectively, a way for parents to pay. So a lot of the administrative has been a little tricky. I've been an educator and always focused on working with the children, but stepping out and doing that business portion and figuring out how to do things in a way that makes sense to me, that I'm not going to drop the ball, has been tricky. But I think I started to really get a grasp around how do I organize myself, how do I organize my schedule, train the therapists that I'm bringing along, other people that are coming to support, even educating parents as to how do they become parent ambassadors. That's something, Maureen, that you you do well, having students take ownership of their leadership and encourage
Uh-huh.
others. And then even the parents doing the same, being able to go out and speak. So I think the biggest challenge has been me just figuring out the administrative and me coming to terms with, I am not like anything else that's being offered right now. I am creating something new and just taking the next step, no matter how scared how scared I am.
Yes, yes, it does take courage to start any business. And I think too, as people that work with children, our hearts are in it for the kids. But it's like, no, I have to charge. And,
Yes.
I have to make sure I have parents that are have the right commitment, have the right kid that's a right fit for the school. And I know you would love just to take everybody and not worry about all those things, but you're also trying to sustain a business. And that is a mind shift and it is scary. So kudos for all of your courage and for sticking with the discomfort to make this happen.
Yes. And, having the group that you set up within Facebook for I might not comment a lot because things have been hectic, but I do go in there and I become very encouraged by other people's comments, by questions. I get ideas. There are sometimes sticking points. Knowing that you are there if I need something has been very valuable. Sometimes I literally stop and I'm like, okay, what would Maureen say? What would she tell me to do in a situation like
Oh,
this? And that has been helpful because I remember that you and I had a conversation at one point and you said, it can be hard to figure out the marketing and where do you get the next student from. And it's been a really interesting dynamic to just do Facebook Lives and just really educate the parents and provide lots of solutions. And then those conversations turn into other things. So thank you for being a great support for me and a great cheerleader. It's been really helpful.
my pleasure, because my vision is that we have gazillion micro schools and options for our kids until everybody's thriving. So I am thrilled with what you are doing. Nana, just catching you for the interview, you were talking about painting and puppies. What is your day looking like when you're opening right after Labor Day? What have you been up to today?
So I part of the program, because I do work with kiddos that struggle with learning. Sometimes they become very, very anxious. So we are getting, we did get 2 dogs that are going to be our little therapy dogs or service dogs. One of them is already in puppy training, and then we just got the second one. So we also had to reorganize my office to make sure that we had adequate space for the students to be able to do their individual lessons or independent working time without distractions. So we went ahead and had someone offer to do the construction, and today I have to go in and paint. So, when we go in on Tuesday, we're going to have hopefully a readily painted office that is going to have lots and lots of color and lots of resources available for the kiddos to interact and do things individually. Whines and barks of the young dog that has not been trained yet. But I'm excited. And I think part of what we're doing too, there's going to be a movement. There is a movement center, I think it's how I would like to call it. And it has, every day we have different exercises that we do for primitive reflexes. And there's like hula hoops, and we have to juggle some things, and we have to balance on a balance beam. So there's all of that will be a part of the first day of class, which I'm excited.
Oh, that sounds so cool. And one thing I think you've done really well, and I'd love to have you explain a little bit to our audience. I think you've really created your tribe. I mean, somebody's in there painting today. I know you're working with some cool movement people and the cool tree program. Who have you gathered in, and what would you suggest to other folks in terms of gaining these resources?
So I would say think outside the box. Many times when you think of a school, you try to stay within the boundaries of what a school has always offered, like art and music and PE. And for me, because I've been an educator and I'm also known to be a really out of the box thinker, for me, it was like, well, I want to think about what do I want my children to experience in life? What are the things that I absolutely value that is, that's going to be life changing? Because I think that there's been a huge shift in education where there's a focus on content teaching, but we are teaching a generation that I don't think needs any more content. We have so much content. And so it's really interesting that we focus so much on content. And I tell, when I train teachers as a writing coach, part of what I tell them is no one will ever ask that student again about the princess and the pea that you're reading about, ever. What they need to know is the thinking skills to be able to read any story and answer any question that's presented. And so I think that what I did was really think about what are the skills that I know a child in the future will need to be able to survive this world. And a huge part of it is discernment, being able to discern what's true and what's not, clear, logical thinking, not being afraid of anything, right? Just kind of stepping in and being bold and curious, really ignite that curiosity. So I found different programs or even neighbors within where my office is and just really sought out how could this be incorporated into the day-to-day? So there is a place here in Miami called Salsa Kings, and they offered a really neat class for children. And I asked them if they would be willing to offer it in my center, and they said yes. There's a good friend of mine who owns an experiential learning program called Nature Postings. And her and I were talking about how we can combine our programs to really do something amazing for the kids. And so we came up with a tree program. And that one is meant to be teaching research through experiences and great, I forgot the other E. And encounters, because the goal is that, you can talk about animals with children all you want, but if you allow a child to encounter that animal and touch that animal and take care of that animal and dissect that animal and then go out into the field and look and complete that research of that animal, that lesson will really, really be engraved in the child. So that's what that program is all about. But I think in reality, it's just really thinking outside the box and saying, in where my office is, there's a music school called School of Rock. So I went there and I spoke to them and said, how can we partner up? There is a gym that has a pool. And I said, is it possible that we can come up with a swimming plan for my kiddos? And can you offer an instructor? So just really not being afraid of asking your community. I think that because of the pandemic, everybody's enrollments are down. And I think it's a great time to really partner and find alternatives to really enhance. I even have a chef that's coming in
oh my,
to be able to teach once a month about nutrition and having the kids cook their own meals and learning how do you cook, what's the right time to cook rice, all of these great things. Have a chocolatier that's right across from the street from me that she's coming in and talking about how do you make chocolate, the quality of chocolate, and then she'll have chocolate available for the kids. But I think it's ultimately thinking about how do I enhance this particular child and give them the tools that they need so that they can thrive in the world that they live in, where content is readily available with Google and Bing and all of these different things, but that they would be able to be enriched and would know how to ask the right questions, how to even think about the right questions, right? How to be curious about and wanting to learn in a way that's not just through a computer. So,
oh my gosh, Nana, this is how education needs to be, where kids are engaged and curious and exploring and experiencing. You're right. They don't need, my daughter called it academic bulimia. She'd open her head and she'd binge on what the teachers would talk at her about, and then she'd purge it out on tests. And it was such a deadly process. And you're putting the life back into it. And kids are starting to feel so disengaged from learning. And you're like, no, you want to be a learner. You want to be curious. Here's some ways we're going to tempt you. And they're going to stay on fire, stay curious. And we need those curious minds to come up with cures and solutions. And we don't want to keep deadening our young minds. So what you have has me so excited. Wow.
I am very, very excited about it, especially because I've seen already in the summer when we were working with kiddos, there was a day that one of the moms came in to pick up her son, and I was dressed like a superhero, and her son was as well. And we were reviewing letters. But I would say, okay, here goes. We need to find the A. What letter makes that sound? And, he had a Jedi sword and he's running around the whole office. And so I look up and I have like my superhero cape on and my superhero, mask. And she's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, we are conquering letters. I don't know what you're doing. You want to join us? Here's a cape.
Yes.
So it's exciting to see. And I'm excited to see how it's going to evolve because a lot of it really, I kind of ebb and flow too with what the children need. I have a system that's called Z Space that it's like a weird VR where kids can dissect. Like recently we were dissecting a brain. And they're like, I didn't know that my brain had all these parts, but they're pulling them and they literally see them up close. And to watch that curiosity. And then the conversation after that was, well, let's write about it. Let's write a journal entry as if you were being the brain and you were being dissected, right? And how would that feel? And how would that? And so it's just really tapping into how do you cause the child to want to engage and to no longer want to always be attached to a computer and a game and a video.
Yes, absolutely. I have one last question for you. Nana, if you had a magic wand for education, what would you wish for the future of learning for all of our wonderful kiddos?
I would say inject creative curiosity back into it. I think that get rid of textbooks. Not that they're completely terrible, but I think that just make learning what learning truly is, right? If you think as an adult, we naturally want to learn. We constantly go on Google to find out things, and that's what we need to foster, not just sit down and learn the 50 states. Mind you, I do teach geography, but I do it through drawing. We draw the world, and the kids at the end, the goal is that they would be able to remember it. And of course, as they're drawing it and they're talking about it, they're having a blast, but they are remembering what are the capitals. And so finding creative ways to really tap into the children. So the magic wand would be, let's allow teachers to be teachers again and to do what they do best without having such a rigid environment for kiddos. Developmentally, children are not ready to sit in a chair and learn when they're very, very young, and that's what we're doing. Kiddos are no longer taking naps. Kiddos are no longer playing, and the majority of the learning up to age 5 happens through play. If you look at an X-ray of a 3-year-old's hand and a 5-year-old's hand and then a 7-year-old, you'll see that the hands are not even fully developed, yet we're forcing these kiddos to sit quietly, to hold a pencil with supposedly the right grip in kinder. And it's almost impossible. Their hands are not prepared for it physically.
Wow.
So magic wand would be teach to the grain of the brain. Allow the children to be where they are developmentally and continually challenge, individualized instruction, I think is so important. And stop teaching the whole class, like the whole class actually can learn at the same time, because they can't. Not everybody's has the same strengths. So
I think that's a wonderful magic one. And truthfully, I don't want to sit and passively learn as an adult. So it's not just early childhood and elementary. It's a disservice, and it numbs out any brain to go from one room to the next and be talked at and to have to read out of dead books. And what you're doing, curiosity and creativity, has no age limit. So I wish that magic wand for all ages. Nana, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today, for inspiring others to take their mission and to let it drive them to open a school that serves more kids. You are an inspiration, and have a great opening next week.
Thank you, Maureen. And you're an inspiration to me as well. Thank you for having me. It's been a huge blessing to be a part of the course and to have the chance to do this. So I'll come back and tell you all about it next week.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nana's Untethered Minds in Miami is opening today, and we are so excited for her. Her whole idea of moving beyond content and helping children reach their full potential is fantastic. When we look at the enrichments she is offering, dance therapy, environmental therapy, drama, chess, cooking, coding, kids have such a rainbow of experiential learning that they can shine in so many ways. And there's no reason that our schools can't be updated to make learning this dynamic and this learner directed. When we talk about learning through play, there is a ton of research to support it. UNICEF has it as a sustainable goal, and it talks about why learning through play builds lifelong learners and supports children's overall development. I have a link in the show notes for that. And then play continues to be important in the elementary. And I have another link to an Edutopia article, and they talk about studying children's play and say that they saw children's bodies and minds were most engaged and focused when they were offered time, space, and meaningful materials to make sense of what they were learning. Teacher-directed activities and transitions are no substitutes for opportunities for exploration, creativity, and socialization. Amen. And I have to confess, working with older kids, we are thrilled by the makerspace movement. In fact, many high school libraries have converted to these zones of creativity. If you haven't heard of makerspaces are collaborative workshops where young people gain practical hands-on experience with new technologies and innovative processes to design and build projects. And it can be done in any kind of physical space. Classroom, shed, storage room, freestanding building. We have a bunch of drawers, these big cabinets full of drawers with all different kinds of materials for kids to create with. And we can't wait to get past the pandemic and let our kids have access to it again. I've included a great makerspace resource from Renovated Learning in the show notes. Nana has done some other things really creatively too. She knows that academics do play a role, and so she's had her students sign up for the free online education so they can continue with their pace in math and English and have support at Nana's school. And then if they do have to shut down for any amount of time, the kids can keep the academics going without any interruption. So she is blending in this free resource, and instead of creating the planning and the lessons for that frees her up to have chocolatiers in and to have the kids swimming down the block. So it frees her up to do all of the experiential enrichment and know that the academics are happening. I really love that her biggest mission is to make sure that people know learning disabilities don't have to be permanent. There's so many kids that feel like they are their label, and that is not true. And her background in cognition, she really is able to help reframe and rewire things for kids. So that is one impressive mission. I thought it was great that mindset is a big challenge. I think that sometimes when we start something new, we have to fake it till we make it and be more courageous than we might be feeling inside. And I love that she said she's taking the next step continually, no matter how scary it is. That's honest. And any new endeavor, there should be a little trepidation, or maybe we're not really at our growth edge. We've talked a lot in the past about creativity. Our second episode was on imagination and creativity with Patty Dobrowski, and you can go back and look in her show notes. She's done a lot of great things with imagination. And of course, Sir Kenneth Robinson is the TED Talk hero, and he laments the loss of creativity in today's childhood. So creativity gets a lot of bandwidth, and for Nana to be saying this is what we're all about makes her school so special. When she talked about advice, she's encouraging all of us to think outside the box. What other offerings could we have? What are my values? What do I want my kids to experience? It's noble that she wants life-changing experiences. And it's true. Our generation of kids don't need any more content. They need to know how to think, and they need future skills. They need to be able to discern. They need logic. They need to be bold and curious. So like Nana, we need to look around and ask, how can we partner up? Don't be afraid to ask your community. We need to be thinking of enriching and enhancing and giving kids tools to thrive and not content. And wouldn't you want to have a school where kids are doing virtual brain dissections and sliding down slides and drawing to learn their geography? So let's be thinking about that, and let's help our teachers. Like Nana said in her magic wand wish, let's help our teachers get to be teachers again without such a rigid, stifling, textbook-driven environment. Let's let them have kids developing at their own pace and give them space and tools to personalize instead of trying to teach to a whole class. So Nana, you are a trailblazer and inspirational. And let's see if this can help us create more microschools and more schools within schools where kids really get to create and have enrichment. If you're finding yourself thinking, I need to do this in my school, let's talk about it. I consult with schools to help them find new, innovative solutions to reaching every student. Let's put together an action plan. Visit educationevolution.org/consult to book a call, and let's get started. Education Evolution listeners, you are the ones to ensure we create classrooms where each student is seen, heard, valued, and thriving. We need you. Let's go out and reach every student today. I'd be so grateful if you'd head over to your podcast app and give a great rating and review if you found this interview valuable. Thank you for listening. Signing off, I am Maureen O'Shaughnessy, your partner in boldly reimagining education.